Alright, what's going on, guys? As Elden Ring has had its time in the sun and we're waiting for Elden Ring DLC to drop, the one thing that absolutely does not slow down is the hunt for secrets. When it comes to finding new things, Elden Ring is a gift that keeps on giving. And we've got some good ones today. We've got a lot of discoveries that go beyond the game, as well as some really interesting gameplay changes that inadvertently happened with the latest patch. And we're gonna break all of those down today. Patch 1.07 did a lot to the game, with a plethora of buffs and nerfs changing the balancing of weapons, skills, and spells to where if you compare this version of the game to what it was at launch, things are very, very different. But one of the biggest buffs that was put out in the patch was an increase in casting speed pretty much all across the board. Now, you'll definitely notice it if you engage in PvP. However, someone who also received this buff was Gideon Ofnir. This dude is an entirely different animal after 1.07. Now, of course, he still falls victim to the wonky AI, but you'll notice that his glintstone spells are significantly harder to deal with. Most notably, Comet, which got a damage buff. I still don't think it's enough to give him the proper boss fight he deserved, but definitely a step in the right direction of making this boss fight a little bit more challenging. So I think it's pretty cool. Personally, I haven't done the fight after the patch. I've been a little bit too busy having fun in PvP after 1.07, but I'm definitely gonna go give it a swing now. In the mountaintops of the giants, if you go to Stargazer's ruins, you can find an interesting bit of storytelling. You can find a jellyfish who is looking for her sister, hoping to reunite and see the stars together. And you can reunite the two sisters by using the jellyfish spirit summon, which will grant you a new gesture and access to the treasure of Stargazer's ruins. But if you go down a path on the cliffside, you can find the graves of the two sisters, which reads, "Here lie Aurelia and Aureliette, who never saw the stars." But there's a fascinating reason for their names. Aurelia aurita is a species of jellyfish known as a moon jelly, which happen to look an awful lot like the ones we can find in the lands between. They can even make this bright red color, just like what happens when we make them mad. And I absolutely love finding little inspirations like this. The shields in Elden Ring are some of the most powerful that we've ever seen in the Souls games before. And even with spells to buff your poise, you can make builds where you're genuinely unbreakable. But do you know what the best way to protect yourself in Elden Ring is? By downloading Surfshark VPN. Surfshark keeps your identity safe online by decrypting all the data that is sent between your device and the internet. This keeps all your personal data safe from the big companies or any other cyber criminals that might be lurking. So that means next time you hit the wrong person with your one-shot build and they try to find your IP address, you're gonna have them looking in Brazil when you're really in Montreal. But that's not all Surfshark can do. Surfshark allows you to bypass all geo restrictions on YouTube and other platforms so that you can watch any content you want regardless of where you live. I've had some of my videos restricted in other parts of the world, and if those people were using Surfshark, they could still watch it. Surfshark also blocks ads trackers and malware so that you can browse without any worries. So try out Surfshark today and use my code Zylestorm for 83% off and 3 free months to protect yourself today. So huge thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. Now, this next one is absolutely wild, and don't ask me how it works because I don't know, and I also don't know if this works for more enemies that have flaming weapons, but if you use Greyoll's Roar, you can put out the fire on the boss's weapons, and they can no longer damage you with those weapons. They quite literally go straight through you. Now, they can still hit you with their fist or their heads, but they can do absolutely nothing with their attacks with their weapons. Now, again, I have no idea how this works or why this works, but it makes the fight with the Mad Pumpkinhead duo an absolute joke. Now, while I'm recording this, I'm trying to think of other enemies that have flaming weapons and if this is going to work on them as well, and possibly other players that use fire buffs on their weapons in PvP. I don't know, currently I don't have the means to test that, so if any of you guys down in the comments can shed some more light on this, that would be awesome. But if anybody was struggling with this fight, since Greyoll's Roar is such an easy spell to get, definitely try this trick out next time you're facing these guys, because it makes the fight a whole lot easier. Now, this next one I thought was really cool too. It's been known for a long time that a lot of the things we can find in the Dark Souls series and Bloodborne can trace their conception back to Magic the Gathering, and so it reasons that Elden Ring would be no different. Miyazaki has stated several times that he's a huge fan of the game and bases a lot of his ideas on old tabletop games, but I never realized just how deep Elden Rings went. Melania's Scarlet Aeonia is based on the Sun Petal Grove card. Godwyn from the story trailer is based on the Brand of Ill Omen card, and perhaps that's even where they got the idea of the Omen Curse from. Even the shot of Godwyn's eye right after that is definitely based on the Death Mark card. Farah Mazula likely also finds its inspiration here. We have the posture for madness as well, and even the rune bears down to the name. And I'm sure there's a lot more, so if you have any more, leave it down in the comments below. And speaking of inspiration, everyone's favorite repudiator of the false, Kenneth Haight, is likely also another example of Miyazaki paying homage in the form of his name. The real-life Kenneth Haight is a writer and creator of tabletop games, known for the games Trail of Cthulhu and Knight's Black Agents, which might be the place they got the name The Knight of the Black Knives from. Miyazaki, being both an enjoyer of tabletop games and the work of H.P. Lovecraft, would most definitely bring him to Haight's work as well, so it's definitely more than a coincidence on this one. It's also worth noting that Kenneth Haight worked on the game RuneQuest, which Miyazaki has stated was a direct reference for a lot of the things we can find in Elden Ring, such as inspiring the plot point of the Great Runes themselves, which you might also know was the original codename for Elden Ring in its development. So that's a pretty cool little piece of trivia for you. This next one I thought was really interesting and raises quite a bit of questions. We've talked in past videos about the lore of Rykard and the God-devouring serpent, and how Rykard gave himself to become one with the serpent, exchanging his body and mind for power. But there's an interesting detail in Rykard's eyes, and we know that in Elden Ring, eyes are one of the most important aspects of characters, symbolic of pretty much all of the major elements in Elden Ring's story. So if we take a look at Rykard's eyes during the boss fight, we can notice that they're mostly gold, however a red tinge is lighting up around their edges and creeping in towards the center. But when we compare this to Rykard's eyes after the fight, we can notice a very stark difference. After Rykard in his serpent form is killed, only the gold remains in his eyes. The red tinge is completely gone and it's totally pure. So is this red symbolic of the serpent's corruption over Rykard and its power that influenced his mind? I think it is, and it's a really cool detail. And it's awesome that people were able to find that. But speaking of eyes and their symbolism in Elden Ring, this next one is one that you guys have pointed out to me so much, and I have completely failed to remember to talk about. But it revolves around the secret cutscene in the Frenzied Flame ending and Melina's strange eyes. Now, we've broken down this scene more times than I can count and gone into super extensive detail about what I think is going on here, and how I'm in the camp that I believe Melina is the fabled character in the lore known as the Gloam-Eyed Queen. Essentially, the Gloam-Eyed Queen was the leader of the Godskin Hunts, who wielded the power of destined death before the Shattering, and was defeated by Malekith the Black Blade. But a crucial piece of evidence that backs up this theory had completely slipped my mind until I was just reminded about it. In this cutscene, we can see Melina open her eye that had been shut the entire game, and unlike her brownish gold eyes that we see throughout the game, this one is more of a purplish azure glow. Oddly enough, the color of a gloaming sky. But I can't believe that I hadn't mentioned how incredibly similar it is to the beast eye that we get from Garong, aka Malekith. And it makes so much sense. You can see on the left side of the beast eye that the claw-like marks line up directly with Melina's tattoo, however on the opposite side. And if Melina is the Gloam-Eyed Queen, then it makes sense that this eye would be in the possession of the creature that defeated her. The beast eye seeks out Deathroot, which is the remnant of destined death, and we only see this eye open on her after Malekith is defeated and destined death is unleashed. Either way, this just makes way too much sense to me, and is such a good piece of the puzzle in this theory that I honestly can't believe I haven't talked about this yet. We'll probably take a deeper dive into this idea in the next video, so be on the lookout for that, but man, that's just so cool to me. Now, this last one is a pretty minor discovery, but it comes with a huge mystery. Did you know that the only place you can see Farum Azula from is the isolated Divine Tower? I don't know why that is. I think this is the only point in the game where it's actually loaded in. Even if you go to the very top of the map at the Forge of the Giants, you still can't see it. I don't know exactly why. So that's a pretty cool detail, but the real reason you guys have been asking me to come here is because when you go and look over the edge of the Divine Tower, you can see this giant flat waterfall. It is completely linear, running from the mountaintops of the Giants straight to the Dragon's Barrow, with seemingly no explanation. Now, it is on the map, you can see that it's straight up and down, and it even has this giant ship off to the right that appears to have crashed from it. Now, we know that FromSoftware does not design stuff without intention, and it seems way too big to be a lack of design choice, but as far as I can remember, there's nothing in the game that actually references it. The only thing that I can think of is this very early design of the map that was leaked long before the game came out, that depicts the lands between as a giant impact crater, and it makes sense, because we know that the Elden Beast, aka the Elden Ring, arrived on a meteorite, but even then, that map doesn't show this perfectly linear waterfall, and a meteorite definitely would not create that. So I know you guys have been asking me to take a look at that, but I really have no idea. Let me know if you got some kind of theory about why that waterfall exists, and I'll be really curious to read those down below. But guys, that's gonna pretty much do for the video today. I hope you enjoyed. I know we don't have a whole lot of gameplay secrets left to talk about. We're just so far from release that they've pretty much all been discovered. And you guys know my goal with these videos is to show you something that you didn't already know, and I like to kind of go outside the box. So I hope I showed you something that you thought thought was cool, and if I did, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.